Hello, you're watching The Intersection where faith, life, and culture meet. My name is Eric Targe.
I'm Justin May.
And today we're talking about something kind of controversial, something kind of fun, something that both of us actually have a lot of interest in the subject. What is it, Justin?
It's going to be Lent.
Lent!
Lent! So there's a lot of ways we could go with this, right? Lent is kind of a fascinating topic to Protestants because we don't generally grow up with Lent. It's not part of our tradition.
Lent is not good, right? We do not like Lent.
Well,
the Reformers said no to Lent, so we say no to Lent.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, that's how typically we frame it.
Right. And as such, because we don't have that familiarity with it, there are some myths and some misunderstandings about it that we thought might be fun to talk about. Eric, what might one of those myths and misunderstandings
Myth number one,
be?
you say? Okay. Yeah. Myth number one is that Lent is a practice of the Roman Catholic Church.
Well, I mean, it is a practice of the Roman Catholic Church.
Okay, the Roman Catholic Church does practice Lent, but Lent is not Roman Catholic. Lent so Lent actually begun way before the Roman Catholic Church was even a thing. So a lot of people are aware of the Council of Nicaea, right? Where Arianism was said to be a heresy. If you don't know what Arianism is, that's okay. Arianism is this belief that Jesus is not God necessarily, that he's kind of like God, that he is, the word is homoousios instead of homoousios. Big Greek words, unnecessary to know. All you need to know is
like Athanasius.
Jesus is God. Oh, totally. Athanasius. Some people believe that's where St. Nicholas slapped or punched Arius in the face. Punched Arius in the face? But there's no proof. We don't know that that's actually what happened. But we do know Athanasius. All that stuff. So that happened in the early 300s. But Lent was actually created as a practice of the church actually in 313 AD. That's way before the Catholic Church, way before Arianism and the Council of Nicaea. It's actually a part of the historic church as a practice. And it was actually started as a preparation for baptism. Mm-hmm. So the early church would actually tell people, hey, if you're preparing for baptism, what they wanted you to do is they wanted you to take 40 days of giving up, of practicing Lent, of sacrificing for the purpose of preparation of baptism. And they would actually encourage many people who are believers to either give something up for that period or to do something in that period. The most common thing that the early church recommended was 40 days of actually sharing the gospel. And so it was supposed to be 40 days of preparation toward Easter to tell about the resurrection and invite people in. And so if they were giving up anything, we might say they were giving up cowardice.
Which is generally a good thing to give up.
Yeah.
And I think one of the interesting things about that background to it is that it does sort of mirror what the best uses of Lent are today.
Totally.
Which is like, okay, the liturgical calendar, which again is like words that we Protestants don't like to use, and definitely the Reformers rejected, and the Puritans rejected all over the place.
Yeah,
and I understand why. Yeah.
You're
Calvin.
saying that John Calvin denied it, but also him and Luther said no to Christmas as well?
Well, yeah.
Go for it.
I think one of the best practices, or the best uses of the practice, is sort of getting that sense of anticipation of the resurrection.
Yes.
But that when there's the holy season that you have in the liturgical calendar, it heightens things a little bit. It feels different. And when you haven't done it, if you've been a Protestant your whole life, or you're not a church-going person at all, it's pretty cool when you're feeling that build and that need for the
actually,
resurrection.
Here at the Moody Church, we participate in Advent.
Yes, we do.
And we participate in Lent. Like, we celebrate the Lenten season by preparation and songs, typically not in giving something up. But that's a part of who we are. Hear us. We are not Roman Catholic. We have no desire to be Roman Catholic.
No.
We are strong, Reformed people seeking the continued reformation of the church, like Richard Baxter said. We are seeking to reform ourselves. So no desire to be a part of the Roman Catholic Church. Hear us there. Second myth. People
Semper
think...
Reformanda.
Yeah, what?
I said Semper Reformanda.
Amen. Always reforming. The second myth that we talked about is that some people think that the purpose of Lent is to earn favor with God.
Right.
Now, we know that's not true.
Oh, we do? Okay, I'm going to make a note.
Well,
Do tell.
So Lent is not to earn favor with God. We would say that, listen, all of our righteousness is from Christ that's been given to us. And all of our evil, all of our sin, all of our disruption of the beauty of God's good world that we sometimes call shalom, all of that has been put on Christ on the cross. And so we are not trying to earn favor with God. What the early Lenten early church fathers would describe this as is they would say, listen, it's a jump start of our sanctification. And that might sound scary as well, right?
Right.
I was like, okay, you can jumpstart your sanctification like
it's something I'm doing,
like it's a special grace that you get. No. That's not what it is. Rather, the purpose of Lent and jumpstarting our sanctification is saying we're going to take 40 days to focus on an area of sin or an area of discontinuity with God's shalom in the universe. I think we can often get so confused and think that that's a bad thing to take a time of focusing. But I mean, here's the thing. Doesn't Paul even say, like, hey, it's good to fast, and it's even good for husbands and wives to fast from intimacy from one another for a time.
For a time.
They're supposed to get back together, but for the purpose of prayer. And
right.
So if the church is saying, hey, these are 40 days where we as a whole church are going to focus together, that doesn't seem like necessarily a bad thing unless it becomes legalistic.
Right, which kind of brings us to the third myth. So now coming from the Protestant perspective in particular, we sometimes view the practice of Lent as just, well, it's just a super legalistic waste of time.
Yeah.
The whole purpose. And to be fair, it totally is one of those things that can definitely be abused.
Oh, so much.
And can definitely become super legalistic.
Yeah.
Especially if you are coming from more of a Roman Catholic context where you're kind of viewing it as this is a thing I have to do. I'm checking this box off. I'm trying to earn.
Yeah, and when it becomes legalistic, oftentimes it's just worthless. Like I remember as a kid. So backstory, very quick. I was born and raised Jewish, converted to Roman Catholicism, then went to a Pentecostal church, ended up Baptist, and it's a whole thing. But for the time that I was in the Roman Catholic Church, I remember during the Lenten season, I was told give up chocolate. And I remember as a kid giving up chocolate, which would just mean that I would sneak chocolate when no one was watching. Now, I don't like chocolate anymore. Maybe that's judgment. I'm kidding. But, like, what is the purpose there of that kind of Lent, and especially when you're forcing it on someone who they're not really wanting to participate or it means nothing to them?
Right. Well, that's the best and worst thing about fasting from things that aren't just food, right? Like if you as a Christian or a non-Christian even can look and see, look, I have this practice, I have this thing that I do, in my family, it's always like, okay, my father-in-law always gives up Dr. Pepper.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
But we're giving up sugar. I've got a sweet tooth, so frequently we'll give up something sugary, and I am doing it. If I'm giving up something like that, I'm doing it with the intent of, okay, I'm doing this, to help create some of that anticipation because I am miserable because I'm missing this thing that I really love. It's something that means something to me, but I also recognize there's no biblical mandate for me to do this.
That's right.
There's no, this is something I'm choosing to do as an extra practice that also helps my waistline.
Yeah. So this is something that, again, we would say, like, being a part of Lent is not required for you. You should not feel any burden to be a part of Lent unless the Holy Spirit is putting it on your heart to give something up for that purpose of jumpstarting sanctification or helping you to understand a greater yearning for an anticipation of the coming of Christ at his second coming.
Right.
And so, like, that's such an important thing. And I think one of the criticisms of Lent, right, is that, Lent is something that's done for 40 days a year, and then you can act like a miserable sinner, you can act like a devil every other day, which, I mean, some places do. I mean, look at certain states and cities we won't name that participate in that crazy festival called Mardi Gras, Fat Tuesday, and look at all the people in Chicago putting out potchkis and everyone eating them as much as they can before Fat Tuesday.
Sure. And that's the thing, like the worst part about a practice like that is that when you have this intense period of, oh man, we are just all in for these 40 days, we're doing all this stuff, man, I got my Jesus fix, and now I'm good for a few weeks off, and then it's much easier to sort of gravitate to that. Well, we do the Lent thing, we're there for Easter, and then, we're definitely going to be there for Christmas. And like, well, the kids have sports, the kids have this going on. Yep. Oh, I had a really long weekend, and I just couldn't quite make it. And you forget that, like, we're called to be proclaiming the death, burial, and resurrection every single Sunday, and for that matter, every single day of the year. So it's not a 40-day process. It's not a one-day on Easter thing that we're building to. It is supposed to be part of just the holistic Christian life lived out. Yeah. But we not only are talking about Lent abstractly, we have something specific we're moving to. And keeping in the spirit of, okay, there's something that, like, some people, I will say, would give up something hard for themselves, like alcohol. Somebody says, well, this is something that's not necessarily a bad thing in and of itself, but I'm using it in a bad way. Yeah. Or I feel like I'm really, really tethered to this thing, and I can't give it up. So I'm gonna maybe try and do this in the spirit of giving something to God and trusting Him to help me with it. That brings us to a tough thing we want to give up.
So for the past 5 years, I've given up the same thing for Lent. Justin does not like what I'm about to say because we've talked about this a bunch. But I've given it up for 5 years now, and it's actually one of the most difficult things I do. And just to be real, I fail every single time I give it up. Justin, can you even say the word what we're giving up for 40 days this year?
I really, really am doing this under protest, but sarcasm.
Sarcasm. Now we should probably give a caveat before we start. You're already hurting.
I'm just...
Lent doesn't start till next Wednesday, and you're...
I don't have any idea how this is going to work.
Okay. So here's the deal. We want to start by saying sarcasm is not evil. Sarcasm is not a sin. It's okay to be sarcastic, and we should probably define what sarcasm is. How would you define sarcasm, Justin?
I don't even know, because I think I use it like just with every single word and thing that I do now. But I would say this: I don't think that it's necessarily responding in a genuine way, right?
It's when you say something, but you actually mean something different. So Oxford defines sarcasm as the use of irony to mock or convey contempt. It's a way to ridicule, it's a way to deride, and sometimes we mean it in the friendly way or in a joking way.
Right, like before anybody shuts this off, I mean, if you probably would have shut this off a while ago.
Probably.
The idea is not that sarcasm is bad, but rather that sarcasm is something that's so interwoven into what we do, we don't think about it. It's very much in the way that, like, for example, some people will give up alcohol, right? And like, not that alcohol is bad, but that alcohol done, if I'm just drinking every single day, not thinking about it, it's a part of my life that I don't question. Well, maybe that's a practice that is worth examining and removing, because it may be a barrier to other things.
Yeah, and so again, we're not saying, hey, give up sarcasm forever. Rather, what our goal is we want to give up sarcasm. Justin and I are giving it up. For you, you may want to give up something completely different, but we're inviting you in to join us in giving up sarcasm for...
It's going to be great.
See, that was sarcasm. For the purpose of seeking to be more genuine. Right. For seeking to be more gentle. For seeking to be more kind. Basically, the fruits of the Spirit. Love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. And the truth is, sometimes sarcasm can mask love. Sometimes it's a way to show love, but more often than not, a lot of people don't receive love in that way. And so the purpose of this is simply to aim toward greater sincerity, greater genuineness, greater gentleness, and see, how do we help, or how do we access those fruits in the Spirit that are given to us, that fruit in the Spirit that's given to us in Christ.
Right, to use our language to build each other up, to be edifying to one another. And to that end, we've got a thing.
What are you doing?
We got a jar. So it's like everybody might know what a swear jar is.
Oh no.
It's like a swear jar, but it's a sarcasm jar, not a swear jar. We're not swearing. We don't have an issue with swearing.
If you do, you should give that up for Lent and maybe just give it up for life.
Well, hey, it's a thing. Like,
again, that might help you focus on it and then get it out.
But we're going to put a jar. We're going to put a jar here in the office. And when we drop sarcasm, we're going to put money in the sarcasm jar, and at the end of 40 days...
Yeah, where does this money go? Does this go to Justin's bank account?
I wish.
For your children's preschool?
I need it. We're going to send it to Naomi's house.
Okay. Yeah, that's awesome.
So I'm imagining it's going to be a lot of money
Oh.
going to Naomi's house in the sarcasm swear jar thing.
Yeah, I hope not in one way, and then I hope yes in the other way. I mean, I'm hoping it more for you. And that's not sarcasm, that's genuine. Yeah. So let's... So let's just define this so we're clear about what Justin and I are giving up. We are not giving up joking. We will still razz one another. We will still joke with one another.
Razz. That's a cool word the kids are going to get.
Yeah, that's very 1920s, isn't it?
Talk about McGams. Yeah.
I don't know what that means. No, I don't want to know what it means. But what we are going to give up is saying something with another meaning. So kind of speaking out of two sides of our mouth. And that's what sarcasm is. It's saying, hey, you look great today. When we mean, yeah, you look like a mess. It's those types of things.
We've talked about this quite a bit. I think you see where we're going with this. If you have thoughts on, is this a good idea? Is this a terrible idea? Put it in the comment section.
Or if you have something that you're giving up for Lent or an experience that you've had with Lent in the past, we also encourage you, put that in the comment section, share your story. Maybe it's a good story, maybe it's a bad story. Maybe like me, you gave up chocolate for a little while, or maybe you gave up something much more grand. We encourage you, leave that in the comment section, be a part of the conversation. If you like this video, subscribe and leave a like for us. And share it with someone you know. You think we're actually going to be able to do this?
No. I mean, we're going to try. You're going to do fine.
That was sarcasm there. What was sarcasm?